Splatoon 2.
Yeah.
Brian Shea, what's the most interesting thing about Splatoon 2?
Salmon Run.
Really? Okay.
I think Salmon Run's a lot of fun. It's just like a horde style wave-based survival mode. Join 3 other friends and just tackle enemies as they come at you and try to harvest their eggs.
It's nice to have a new mode for Splatoon 2 for all the people saying, oh, it's just like the original one again. But I heard, correct me if I'm wrong, that you can only play that at certain times?
In matchmaking, yes.
And online, yes.
But you can do like a private match with friends at any time.
Okay.
Or like get a bunch of friends who have Switches together and play like a local match.
But the problem is like you have to have friends.
Yeah.
How
That's
you doing with
proving
friends?
a real issue for me.
It's fine.
Okay, you doing all right?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. Have you all played the Salmon Run then?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did a video on it, I feel like.
We
right?
did.
Yeah.
There's a video on GameInformer.com.
I've read every YouTube comment saying, you're blowing it. Use the motion controls, you hacks.
Yeah, Jeff Cork
I
just
hate it.
kept getting eaten. He was really bad. He
What
just
is-
kept getting devoured.
That thing about the motion controls, man. Splatoon players love it.
I
don't get
cannot
I
play
can't do
motion
it.
controls.
Yeah,
I-
don't know.
I think I'm going to try it again. I played the Wii U version, the Splatoon 1, I should say, with not using the motion controls. But it seems like everybody who knows anything about Splatoon, it's like, hey, once you get used to it, it's like a slight learning curve. It's like swiping to text. You know what I mean? Where at first it's really bizarre, and now you can't live without it.
I
So
mean,
I'm going to force myself to do it this
I
time.
do like I'm not like one of those guys that's like motion controls suck. I don't ever want them. Like I like them in Breath of the Wild. I kept them on and I like them in Breath of the Wild. But I gave Splatoon a shot and I turned them off pretty quickly. But maybe it's like just break through it. Like play 5 matches with motion controls on and suck for the first 3 and maybe the last 2.
Suck down those salmon.
That's
Yeah,
right.
it's unfortunate too because like the game opens and and there's no way to turn it off like for the first 5 minutes. So it's like you're just sort of weaving in through this labyrinth, like hopping everywhere with motion controls. It's really unsettling. It feels kind of like a horror experience.
All right.
And like then you get to like
Come on.
then you get
That's
to the
just because you had
square.
red ink. If you had the purple ink, it would.
Oh yeah, it'd be fine. And then you can turn them off, and it was like this huge wave of relief.
Yeah,
It was really good.
So I'm still confused. Salmon Run, you said Jeff Cork kept getting eaten.
Yeah, there's a shark enemy that literally eats you.
Does he swim around in the ink? Yep.
Yeah. So there's a bunch
It's
of
really
boss
clever.
there's a bunch of boss enemies that come out just like Horde mode in Gears of War. There's a bunch of like, standard minion characters that you have to fight off.
And it's the octopus freakos?
No, they're salmon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Huh.
salmon. So there's like a bunch of really creative bosses. So I guess we don't want to say the Salmon Run's the most interesting part of it because I really love the single player as well. The single player is super creative. It beats the single player of the first one, which I loved as well.
Huh.
And they both have distinct, really awesome creative bosses as well. Salmon Run, they have one that's like a bunch of pots and pans stacked up on top of each other, and there's a guy up top shooting like a stream of ink at you. And in order to take him out, you have to do kind of like the Super Mario World eating the cactus thing, where like with the cactus, you gotta like knock out the bottom one, then knock out the next one until he's all the way on the ground. Then you can shoot him.
Do they recycle bosses from the single player
No,
campaign?
they're all new.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
then there's the shark one that JV was talking about that kept eating cork, where you just see a little like kind of like a buoy going through the ink, and then
Stop.
not a David Bowie.
No, I get that, but there's a shark. It seems like there's a very easy way to tell if there's a shark swimming, which is the fin. But they have a buoy?
Oh, I thought you were going to say that the Jaws theme should be playing. Like, that's totally what I thought you were going to do.
But like a Splatoon version of like wank, wank, wank,
Yep.
wank. Yeah.
Amazing.
No, it's you just see that going through the.
Why not his fin?
I don't know.
Well, hold on. Maybe the fin's there, but the
Maybe
buoy
it
just
is,
makes
yeah.
it more
Yeah.
accentuates
Yeah.
it.
But
for
like
the mechanics purposes of like this is easier to see now.
Yeah,
It
and
might be
there's
that.
also like a generous like circle of like a glowing circle that appears for like 2 seconds before it like rises up
It
to
emerges
bite
out.
you. So
And then there is one that's like just a flying
Trash
monster
can.
with dumpsters on either side, and it does airstrikes from the dumpsters. And when it opens up for the airstrikes, you got to throw your bomb in there to blow it off.
yeah. You have to do it
All right.
twice. Like you have to knock out both sides.
And there's one that has like he is completely invincible, except he has a balloon that inflates on his head that he launches at you. But if you shoot the balloon before it launches off, it blows up in his dumb face.
This sounds very clever. This sounds really
I
good.
mean, the boss battles are super cool.
Yeah.
They're the highlight of both modes.
Is that right?
And yeah, the single player is also super awesome.
How does it compare to the first one? Because the first one, I think it was enjoyable, but you were an underdog lover if you were the guy that was like, oh, it's secretly amazing. Like it was just north of pretty
It was
fun.
really good, and I think that the first one was really good, and I think that it was a pleasant surprise for a game that everybody thought was going to be all about the multiplayer.
Right.
I think that Splatoon 2's is also really, really good. I think it's a little bit better than the first one.
Meaning what's better about it?
I think that they added some new elements. They took some of the old elements and kind of presented them in new ways to make it so it's interesting.
You're a lot more mobile throughout. Like you're moving a lot faster. You're like gliding on rails.
The rails are super cool.
And they mix up the weapons a lot too, because they brought like all the weapons they added post release for Splatoon 1. Like there's an entire level dedicated to that like weird paintbrush.
Yeah.
You know, or that like there's like this new umbrella weapon that you can use defensively, but you can also shoot the umbrella out. And they design a whole level around using that weapon to let you learn how to use it. And it's cool. Like
it is awesome.
Yeah.
It's not even in multiplayer yet. They're bringing it to multiplayer as like one of the first post-release updates. So like you hold the button or if you just tap the trigger, it shoots almost like a shotgun blast of ink. And if you hold it, it opens up the umbrella like a shield. And then if you hold it for too long, the umbrella portion of it just shoots off into the distance and explodes. It's really cool.
So same tone, but maybe even more personality in this one. Just wackier equipment, movement overall.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
this sounds great.
It's just like the movement was a big thing for me because like a lot more rails. So you're gliding along rails, you're shooting while you're on those rails.
That's Kyle Hilliard porn.
You're jumping between rails.
Oh, it's
jumping,
so much fun.
Well, my porn is jumping from really high heights, which you do a lot of that too.
Oh, really?
And then there's also like a lot of moving blocks and stuff like that. It's never like platforming. Like you're not playing Super Mario.
There's some platforming sequence, but it's like very light.
But it's not the
platforming.
focus. Like
No.
you know, it's not hard to jump between the blocks because you got to focus on spraying ink, and it's cool. It just moves really fast. The bosses are awesome. It's got a cool ending.
It's still
Credits are sweet.
The final boss is
Good
a lot
credits.
better than the first one. Like it's not as hard, but it's super fun.
Yeah.
okay. That first one, that was
tough.
a rough go.
Yeah.
but memorable.
I think they learned a lot from that.
But it's still like the kind of nebulous levels floating in space. It's not like it's a more
Correct.
coherent
Right.
world or anything than the first one. It kind of feels just like elaborate challenge maps.
But what? It's like maybe 6 hours to play through the single player.
It's pretty,
Oh, wow.
It's
Okay.
like pretty
I think it's
substantial.
bigger than the first, longer than the first one.
There's
too.
5 worlds. I think there's like 6 or 7
Yeah.
levels in each world plus a final boss.
Yeah, I just finished it last night and
boss.
I enjoyed it
Right on.
quite a bit.
Is there a chance, since we haven't really talked about it yet, that the multiplayer isn't as sticky as you would want it to be? Did everyone kind of drain that with the first one of like, oh, it's fun, it's
Oh.
novel, but I don't know if I really need to level up that whole system
like,
again.
Does it sort of reset and it's like, oh, I'm back in? Is that kind of what you mean?
I guess so.
Yeah.
It seems odd that you guys aren't loving the core of what Splatoon
Well,
should be.
I
Right?
like it a lot. It's just the thing is that it's so similar to that of the first game that when you ask me what the most interesting thing about this is, it's not the thing that they carried over from the first game. It's the new stuff that they tried.
Yeah.
But the multiplayer is still super fun. Like they brought back some old maps with some new twists, and then they brought in some all new maps. I would say it's as good as the multiplayer in the first one. Only they have all of the modes that they added post release in there right out of the gate. So I guess it's better at launch.
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like the Switch sort of like in any other case that would kind of be maybe damning with faint praise, but the Switch is in an odd position, and I felt this with Mario Kart too, as someone who did not have a Wii U for long and like played none of those exclusives. Like getting to play it on the go for the first time, and even if it's like a slightly better version of like a game that came out years ago, it's great.
Yeah.
Like I love it. Like sure, it might be the same game or whatever, but you're opening that up to a whole new audience, and like you can take that game anywhere. Like I feel like that has its own merits.
Do you feel like you get used to hitting Y to have the map come up? Because I played the Splat test, and that was the thing where it's like, man, I really miss having that map always on that bottom screen ready to go.
I got used to it.
Okay.
It only took me
I don't think it's ever as intuitive as just tapping the screen to launch to like your teammate.
Yeah.
But I got a lot quicker with it, and it felt a lot more natural. I will say the only thing I don't like as much in the sequel as I did in the original is the music.
Ooh, interesting.
I think the music in the first one is freaking phenomenal. The second one, there's some catchy songs, but it's not nearly as good. Like I even after I wrote the review and like sent it off to Joe for edits, I went back and I listened to the soundtrack of the first game, and it is so much better.
But again, it's that situation, just to really on your point, Brian, where it's like that music, you already love it. Is it just maybe
But
getting used
I
to
brought
the new?
this up when I reviewed the first game.
How
I really
okay
love
it
the
was?
soundtrack of this game, and then I spent just as much time, if not more, with this game when I reviewed it. So it was
Do you
kind
know
of.
if it's the same composer?
I think it
Yeah.
might be. I mean, it's the same
Okay.
band because they have a band that actually plays the Splatoon music.
I didn't,
Oh,
and
that's
you
right,
played
they
a
have
lot.
concerts and stuff. in
Yeah.
Japan, yeah.
You played a lot more than me, but I didn't really get the sense that there was a lot of new.
In the
music.
multiplayer, it's all new.
It's all new. Okay,
the single player recycles some of the songs,
because that's
but they
mostly
also
what
do
I've
some new.
I've played. Because there's just not. You had your like review sessions to play online, but I missed those, so I've only gotten to play online a little bit. But yeah, since I played mostly single player, that was my takeaway with the music. It's like this kind of I've heard all these.
Yeah, a lot of the music in single player. I mean, there are some new tracks in there, but a lot of it is either the same song or like a re-recorded version of the same song. Because they told me when I interviewed them at E3 that there was no music from the first game. So
Really?
either they're lying, or they weren't thinking about single player, or they re-recorded some of the songs,
or they don't know the definition of the word new.
I also I feel like Splatoon is another occasion of like Nintendo having really neat ideas that like bash up against ideas that were fixed a long time ago. Like you can't, when you enter a lobby in multiplayer, there's no way to exit it unless you like back out of the game. So
you
you
just
just
turn off your game.
You have to sit there and wait.
Turn off the game.
So like if you
Yeah.
enter a multiplayer matchmaking lobby
Yeah.
and like you get slotted into the multiplayer session waiting for new players, you either have to wait for that timer to expire, play through the match, or turn off your system to get out of that lobby.
Holy God.
No, it gets better, and there is no way to like switch your weapons while you wait, or like customize your character, or pick out your gear, or anything while you do this. You have to go back out to like the the square that acts as basically like the interactive menu, like
Right.
world thing.
Yeah.
Where you buy stuff, and it's maddening because literally any other multiplayer game from like the past 10 years has solved this issue.
And I think my biggest criticism is how hard they make it to play with friends. Because
That was the big issue with the first one.
Yeah.
It still carries through.
well, there's a way to like join friends and like have private matches and everything, and you can like if you see a friend is playing a match, you can try to join them. But so if JV's playing Splatoon, I know I said friends, but if JV's playing Splatoon 2 and I see that his match is joinable, I can click that and I'll be slotted right in. Granted that there's an open slot in his lobby.
but there's no way to like squad up. And then
There
go
are
in.
in certain modes.
And with the app,
like in what do they call it? Not competitive. There's
League, ranked.
Turf War, ranked, and league. Yeah, I think in ranked you can create a party of 2 or 4, and then league there's no way to. Maybe I have those flip flopped. I think league there's actually a way to have a
Right.
group of 2 going into the lobby or a group of 4 going into the lobby.
So there are ways to do what you want to do. It's just more convoluted than
It's
you want.
more convoluted. Or you can use the Nintendo Switch app and
let's dive into
invite
this.
your friends.
How is that? It's our first time really with the Switch online in a robust way, right?
so I do like the app. I'm a proponent of like I do like the idea of managing
the
your
stat
group.
tracking's awesome.
I like the stat tracking. I like the idea of managing a group on my phone because usually if you're going online, you're kind of texting people and stuff. Anyway, I don't mind that. I think that's an interesting idea. And what little I've played with it, it seemed like okay, you can invite friends, you can make groups and stuff like that. But then you run into the problem, which a lot of people have pointed out, which is absurd, is that like if you're doing like voice chat with the app, if you close the app or turn off your screen, you get disconnected.
You can't let the phone go to sleep?
You have to leave. Well, it won't go to sleep if the app is running, right?
Gotcha. Okay.
But like if you turn off the app, like you have to start
Like
over.
in between matches
you
in a
can't
multiplayer
check
game.
Twitter while you're waiting for a match to start.
Like that's every multiplayer game I've ever played. While I'm waiting for the next match, all right, what's going on Twitter or what's going on in my email inbox? Like
nope.
Holy God.
And honestly,
you got to lock in. You can't look at Twitter. You can't respond to text messages. You're playing Splatoon, and that's it.
it seems like something Nintendo would defend as like, oh, well, we want you to focus on our games.
yeah,
no, but like this is like one of the hallmarks I feel of like modern Nintendo stuff is you need a goddamn flowchart to like answer a simple question. Like when Fire Emblem, not the last one, but the one that came out that had like 3 games, and you wanted to know which game do I want to play.
Yeah.
There would be like a flowchart to answer that, and that's the same thing with Splatoon. How do I play with my friends? Well, here you go. I keep getting disconnected. Well, you got to do this and this and this, and it's insane.
But the one nice thing I will say for it is pretty intuitive in terms of like inviting people, and it looks nice when you have people in a group. You're like these little bubbles floating around, kind of like arms. That's nice.
As long as there's animation that'll drain the hell out of my battery.
Exactly.
That's
Like,
all I care about.
That's cool. Like I said, I like the idea of offloading it off the console onto a phone. I don't think that's a bad idea.
You like that idea?
I do. I like
That's
that
weird.
idea. But it functionally is not working right now. And the biggest thing they need to do is let you use it while your phone is
in the background.
or in the background.
It's all optional. It's just if you want voice chat, right? Or just if you want more stats.
It makes it easier to connect with friends because like what Brian is talking about was like all the onboard stuff. Like, so it makes it easier to connect with friends. But yeah, it is optional. If you don't care about talking to people while playing Splatoon, you don't have to use it, I guess.
And but the stat tracking stuff is super cool.
That's
like
cool.
I went into my Splatoon stats last night, and it was like, all right, here's how much paint you've sprayed over the course of your entire multiplayer career. Here's what your win-loss record is over the past 50 matches. Here's how you've done on this map. Here's how you've done on this map.
So it isn't just like, because most stats, like I look at them in other games, is like, here's how much you suck. And like, that's not interesting, but like stuff that's like miles traveled or like, here's how much paint you've spilled or whatever. That's cool.
That is high on the list is here's how much ink you have sprayed, which is cool. I just like seeing that number.
Yeah, that's
cool.
And they actually, you level up on that. So it's like, all right, you've covered enough to, paint this entire desert on Earth. Like, it gives you it gives you a real world equivalent of how much ink
I haven't sprayed enough ink to see that.
Well,
I think I painted all of New York.
I think I had enough to like paint a pyramid. That's how much I
really
had.
like that a lot.
That
is
is really
one
cool.
of the Great Pyramids.
I think so.
That's absurd.
All
right, that's fine.
You got it. Those are rookie numbers. You got to do better.
Get to the Sphinx, then we'll talk. Great. What'd you end up giving this game?
I gave it an 8.25 out of 10 because while I had a lot of fun with the game, there were so many things that like the game kind of got in its own way. Like the Salmon run not being available online at all times.
Real quick, how does that work? Is it like every 30 minutes or is it like a specific schedule?
There's a specific schedule. It's kind of like the way maps rotate where it's like, all right, they're hiring because the whole story is you're a freelancer going in to collect eggs for this agency.
Of course.
So it's like, oh, well, they're not hiring right now, so you can't enlist.
Sure. Let's all have fun. Okay.
So, but yeah, it's like all right, it's open for this 2-hour window, kind of like maps rotate in and out of availability.
Right.
Which I also still wish they didn't do the maps rotating in and out. And then also the problems we just talked about connecting with friends and not being able to back out of a matchmaking lobby, not being able to change out your loadout without leaving a matchmaking lobby.
Bizarre.
Other than that, I love the game.
There we go. I'm looking forward to playing it for sure. Thank you so much for watching this excerpt from the Game Informer Show podcast. You can subscribe to the audio version and listen to new episodes airing every Thursday. We cover big games on the horizon, games that we've just reviewed. We have long-form developer interviews, a lot of fun stuff. So check it out every Thursday.